It says we're streaming live on YouTube. Is that right?
Correct. We have to do that with all of our meetings.
I'm sorry, what?
We have to do that with all of our meetings.
Ah.
Subcommittee meetings. Yeah.
Public record. It's the joy of government, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, Mary.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Susan said she's having trouble getting in, Nikki.
Okay, I'll double check and see what's going on.
So in the meantime, I'd like to get started so you have your full half an hour with us.
Okay.
And I think, why don't we start? Hi, Daryl. I just want
Good afternoon, Sally.
Hi. So again, I just want to say that we're really going to stick to the script so that it's very fair to all artists. We have a series of 7 questions that we'll ask you, Mary, after your presentation. And I'm going to be the timekeeper so that we really stay on track and have time to do everything. So we're waiting. We do have one more person. But if you're able to turn on your video, that's wonderful. I see Lahua just joined. Hi, Lahua. So we'll just go ahead and get started. Mary, I know you have a presentation. Hi, Daryl.
Okay, hi. I'm Mary Koss. I grew up in Detroit. I've lived in about 30 years. I have lived my life as a professional artist. I've taught, I've made art, I've done design work, and I have an extensive background in public art. I've worked a lot with community and also with designers, engineers, other artists, fabricators, and contractors. And I'm going to share a couple projects with you. So I'm going to go over to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick tour through 4 of my projects as a way to share my methodology of working from design through fabrication. And why is it not going? Okay, there. Let me start with the treasure trail. I share this project to show you some pieces where I've linked together a large site to create a whole. I worked on a master plan to create a plan for artwork at this site, and then was chosen as one of the artists to make work. This project is a sprawling development that covers 100 acres. And as a way to unify and create identity and to instill a sense of discovery, I proposed a treasure trail. It travels multiple trails on the site and connects several pocket parks with a central hub that includes a gathering plaza, a library, and a community center. The treasure trail includes several projects that relate to hopes and wishes. And this first work that I'm showing you is 3 Wishes. And it's made from reclaimed cedar from the site with metal stamped texts that share the stories of 3 wishes from around the globe. The highest elevation of the Green Bridge Trail is marked with these sister cairns. And these 2 matching cairns are made from different materials, and they sit on the trail at the highest part of the site on either sides of a street. And the metal cister is lit inside and acts as a beacon. And this is Greenwich Green Drain, and it's a demonstration project that celebrates an ecological green drain system. It recycles roof rainwater to protect a nearby delicate lake that, because this water ends up in the lake. So by using a green drain, they conserve part of the water. They don't have to process as much. The ecology is told through a runnel system that explains this process. The roof water passes through gutters, drains, decorative scuppers, and into a basin that overflows into the green drain. And you can't really see it on the stairs here, but there's bronze plaques mounted on the steps that create a poem that reflect on the water system. And the next project I'd like to share is Ghost Log. And it's actually a project that I'm in the middle of right now, and it's coming very close to you, these in Tacoma. So these images show the concept slides that illustrate the sculpture on site, and then I'll follow with images of the built sculpture. The Ghost Log is an 8-foot diameter by 42-foot long corten steel sculpture. And it sits on a historical vintage artifact that was retrieved from the lumber mill after a fire at Dickman Mill Park. The structure includes a head saw and a carriage, and it's on Tacoma's Commencement Bay. You probably know the park. The abstracted sculpture weaves together the vintage machinery, the idea of that machinery, and the organic growth of a cedar tree, which would be a typical log cut at the site. The 8-foot diameter wheel and the tree rings stand witness to these enormous scaled logs. The inward mechanical end of the sculpture transforms organically as it works its way. It's loosely woven into a basket and then into a twined basket, which is the weave typical of the local Puyallup tribe's cedar baskets. The work culminates over the water at cedar boughs. The saw and carriage are located where they originally stood at the mill, one of the numerous mills that were all along the waterfront there at the turn of the 20th century. I worked closely with engineers and fabricators and historical architect and a historical architect to navigate several challenges on this project. One was just the large scale, also working with fish and wildlife regulations and limitations due to its historical status. This is the site currently. The work installs this month. The track on the right is where you'll walk around the project, and the grid on the left is where the carriage will sit. The sculpture is made in 5 sections, and it's currently sitting in a field at the transfer station right near you. It takes about 9 months to form the rich patina. My goal to honor the Puyallup tribe while celebrating the lumber mill initiated several streams of research and interviews, and resulted in my working closely with tribal members to integrate the Lushootseed, their language, into the work. I often use laser cut or water jet cut metal to break up large forms that don't overpower the viewer. I'm also drawn to the beautiful shadows that are cast both during the day and through lighting at night. These are applications I'd be interested in at Colonial Plaza. All of my metal work is done in collaboration with Atomic Fabrication in Seattle, and my castings are done with Two Ravens Foundry in Tacoma. I've worked with both of these businesses for several years, and the advantage to that is that I have working relationships that allow me to have hands-on in the process at the fabricator. The next piece is cast bronze and cast resin, and I fabricated it at Tacoma Foundry. At Tukwila Village, I acted as lead artist for the development and coordinated the work of several other artists. My sculpture here, called Ripple Effect, was designed with the architect and the landscape architect, and I worked with them. They developed the community center roof line, and they built it to collect and feed the rainwater to the sculpture. The cast resin water carrier has an urn that fills and overflows. The water comes down a chain and fills that. And then it runs down inside the lace-like urn. The cast bronze written script is a process I've developed I write words in cursive and wax, and then I cast them in lost bronze. The image of a female water carrier and the international proverbs that literally compose the vessel are both chosen as a way to honor the makeup of the neighborhood community. The Foster High School is adjacent to this community plaza, and that school hosts over 90 languages. So I was challenged to come up with a way to talk to a global audience and not be specific to one culture. Water disappears through the cut stainless grate in the shape here of a water ripple, and the water recirculates via a pump in addition to the passive feed. I make use of lighting to create drama. My primary material for public work is metal, as it's resilient to time, weather, and other damage. It can be cast and fabricated, as I said. Its reflective surface can be used with lighting. And I strive to make work that has a dramatic presence from the distance, but provides intimate details upon close viewing. And the last piece I'd like to share is Surge, which I'm currently working on for Bainbridge Island High School. Surge represents a positive force forward, which is inspired by the high school student. The piece it has physical similarities I found between the fern frond and a crashing wave, both that are important to the island. They follow the golden ratio, which describes predictable patterns found in nature. So each plate has a decorative cutwork containing quotes and words. And here they are laying flat. The fern imagery is engraved with the theme becoming and learning. And then the middle wave is the tall wave, and it talks to challenge and resilience. And then the last wave speaks to creativity and imagination. So in totality, the themes and imagery represent a metaphor for graduating students and them going forth into the world. The nature-based imagery from the Northwest forests and the water I thought was important specifically to this area. So this work is currently being painted. I actually shot this shot 2 days ago. I think that artwork humanizes the built environment, and my goal is to balance aesthetics and good design with a sense of discovery that resonates for deeper meaning. The plaza is the type of sprawling space I'm used to working with. It holds a history for delving into thematic research and a community engaged in the process, which I see all of these things as contributing factors that I embrace. I'm going to come out of my share here. And okay. That's pretty much what I wanted to say. And I probably used 10 minutes, so.
Okay, thank you so much, Mary. That was fabulous. I like that you hit on the point of your primary material that you use lighting, that you've created these sculptures that you can see from a distance and have dramatic impact, but also are meant for close-up viewing to show more detail. And so the first question is based on your site tour. What are your initial thoughts about this project? And how do you see incorporating artwork into the Colonial Plaza space?
My initial reaction to the site was that I would like to warm it up. It's kind of a sprawling, I guess, austere kind of site, and so, and because of its size, it's also, and it doesn't have a natural focus center. So, I mean, there's a center, but it's not probably where you want to put something. So it's a kind of site that kind of asks, I guess my initial question was, do I want to create something like large and signature, or would this be a better site to create a group of pieces that kind of unfold as you experience it? And honestly, I haven't decided yet, but I think that it lends itself more to having impact from building multiple projects that together unfold as you walk through the site, so that it becomes kind of a sense of discovery for people. I think another thing that I thought about was in the past when I've done projects that change from being kind of an empty place with a few pedestrians to a very active center, I think one of the things that you can do is get the work up high. And so that's one thing that I was thinking about, like how can I get some work on site that's up high so that you can take advantage of light at night and create more of a almost like a beacon, but also where it doesn't disappear in a crowd.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to the next question. Susan's going to ask this question.
Thank you, Mary. This is Susan. What excites you or piques your interest about this project in particular?
I think one of the things that from the site that I was inspired by were the Gary oaks. I think that those oaks are really beautiful, and I think because I like to work with cut metal work, they lend themselves to that. I could see drawing from the tree as a design image to work with. I also was thinking about the idea that acorns, a lot of times acorns are seen kind of as pears. And I know that the youth was very interested in this idea of unity. And I was thinking that as a symbol, acorns could symbolize unity if there were like two. It's just kind of a simple symbol. So I'd like to look more into all of that.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to rush along, but we'll go on to the next question. We can always circle back if there's more time. And the next question, Ariani will ask. She's our youth representative.
Hi, I'm Ariani. So what are some potential challenges with this project, and how do you think you can overcome them?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that it's a large space. And I think that, well, I kind of spoke to that already, but the fact that it doesn't have a focal point, I think one of the ways to overcome that is to either create a focal point or to, well, to create a focal point in one of two ways. Either there's kind of there's a planting bed that's kind of directly in front of the doors of the Colonial Theater, straight across, and it seems a bit like a natural if you were going to do one central piece to put it there. The other thing would be to go up high. So that's how I would approach that. I also think that because it's kind of sprawling, that light becomes super important.
Yep.
And always work with light, so that seemed like a natural kind of cure to part of this challenge.
Thank you. And then
Oh, and
I have Jason.
Hi, Mary, Jason Whalen. So
Hi.
you've answered a few of my questions. Because of the lack of a focal point, do you think that that might lend the design to more of a gateway piece in the front end? And I like your thought about the oaks, because many people have associated Lakewood with oaks. So what further research might you do to kind of hone that idea?
well, I think, it seems like there's it's a huge resource in terms of looking into symbology that's related to oak trees, the history of Lakewood, and the life cycle of oak trees, and how could that maybe be tied into the historical timeline of the area. And I was really interested in the fact that you were going to have a time capsule, and that I think it could be interesting to somehow speak to that too, so that the artwork could somehow speak to the time capsule in one way or another. So I think that, like, looking into research, those are the things that I would start with. So the area history, I'd like to talk to some of the young people to specifically see what their concerns are in terms of like what kind of relevance they want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And then also that relates back to that time capsule.
Great. I'd love to spend another hour with you. I think it'd be fun to dig into it.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And then Earl will ask the next question.
Hi there, Mary. I apologize. The computer I'm on doesn't have video, so I do apologize about that.
Okay.
But my name is Earl Borgert, and I'm one of the people on the volunteers on the Arts Commission. The city of Lakewood, as you know, is really starting to get a foothold into the art realm, and really trying to develop our own kind of branding, so to speak. Do you have any suggestions or thoughts for the committee about how this art can engage the community and how it can draw tourists? Would you be able to, use some of your own personal well-known branding to kind of make this project kind of take it up to a next level to engage more people that follow you along your social media platforms?
Yeah, I think that one thing that I was thinking about in terms of just kind of drawing interest would be to include, I always use, not always, but I often use text. And I was thinking that it could be interesting to actually almost have clues, or to have like a walking history, like, so that within the design work and the texture, and what appears just as maybe beautiful texture from a distance, and when you get closer, maybe there's pieces of clues, maybe there's, maybe it is like a walking history of the area, and that might be something that would draw a tourist, or just the idea that there's something there compelling to find, to dig into. And then, the other thing is to look more into this idea of collaborating on the time capsule thing, because it could be interesting to drop clues about that, like maybe even drop clues about what might be in it, or like it could become a thing for people to try to figure out, well, what's in the time capsule, or, like where is the time capsule? But in terms of my own following, I would definitely be able to expand on particularly this piece that's going into Tacoma is going to create quite a it's a monumental piece, and the waterfront there is already part of the tourism of the area, and so I think that these pieces would be very, very unique from each other, but having that piece so close might actually encourage some people to go look at this piece too, because they would be related, but in that the artists did them both. But I guess to answer your question about my own following, that's the way that I would see that working.
That's
Thank
great.
you so much. And we're at 5:28, so we're gonna have to hustle. Bonnie has a question for you.
Hi, Mary. Really fun to meet you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my question for the group is really simple. Like, after being at the site, I mean, are there any other questions that you have about the project or the site?
Yeah. I would like to find out about there were some lighting poles that were coming out. We don't need to talk about this now, but these are just ideas that I had. Like, I was wondering if the lighting poles that are being removed, that I could use those. If I was going to get something up in the air, maybe I could reuse those, and then we're saving materials and we're saving money that way. I had other questions. I guess the questions I had were just like, does the city have equipment like lifts and those kinds of things to help with installation? Is there any kind of support that way for the artist?
You know, we did have a bucket truck, but it's not working right now. But we do have the ability to work with you on that.
Mhm.
And I can answer that offline. That's a really
Yeah.
good question.
Okay.
And I did miss a question, which was, but you kind of answered it, and it was, have you worked in similar spaces before, in terms of it being both a thoroughfare and an event space?
Yeah. And I answered that a little bit in my talk, but I have, and that experience has kind of driven how I looked at this space, because I think that there's some unique things about this space that I often am working on very large spaces where we're trying to create a sense of identity for that place by like drawing the history and the demographics of the area and somehow encapsulating that into a piece of art that somehow, creates that kind of presence. So I am used to that.
Thank you. It is 5:30, and so now we're realizing how quickly this goes.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do is we can absolutely have another Zoom call, but I think it would be great for the committee to write down while it's fresh any questions that you would have for Mary, so that I can send those to her, and so that we can possibly have another dialogue. But thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks.
Nikki, is John on the call yet?
Not yet.
Okay. So please take this moment. I'm sorry about that. But I think that was great. We got to hear from her. I think we have a really solid understanding of what she can and can't do, the material she works with. But please write down any questions you would have had in the dialogue. We can, if we need to have another call with these artists, we will absolutely do that. And I'm going to ask you to please stick with the script so that we can be fair. I sent them these questions, but I didn't ask anything about their social media following or kind of how people follow them as an artist. So we can always ask that question over email to everybody, but let's really stick to the script for these purposes. So let's see, we're waiting for John Fleming.
Hey, Sally, this is Patty. I'm
Mhm.
just getting back in. If I didn't see the questions so I can read the first one now if you want.
Okay, great.
I just don't know what the question is. Where'd you send it?
Do you want me just to read it to you?
Oh, that would be great.
Okay,
can-
it's based on your site tour.
Okay.
What are
I'm
your
not-
initial thoughts?
Hold. Based on the site tour, what are your initial thoughts?
About this
Okay.
project?
Okay.
And how do you see incorporating artwork in this space?
Okay, initial thought. How do you see what?
Incorporating artwork
Okay,
into this space.
got it.
So based on your site tour, what are your initial thoughts and how this project, and how do you see incorporating the artwork into this space?
Got it. Thank you.
You are welcome. I'm just going to see if he emailed at all. Well, while we wait, let's use our time. What are your thoughts or questions or concerns?
I mean,
I like Jason's question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked how she wants to do more of it sounded like a series or something. I thought that was cool. And I'm actually really pretty intrigued by the time capsule tie-in. I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know how it would play out, but I thought it was an interesting little tidbit.
I think her current Tacoma project would do very well, for our project. Oh, John's on.
Hi, John.
Sorry to jump in. Am I coming in too early?
No, you're perfect. It is your time. You have the floor. Welcome.
Thank you. I actually came in a few minutes earlier and I saw you're still talking with Mary, so hope I didn't barge in.
No, not at all. We're trying to really stick straight on time to be fair to everybody. So welcome, and we're just going to dive in with your presentation to us.
Thank you.
Followed by the questions, and I'll be the timekeeper.
Okay. So I could start with the first part, just how I approach projects in general. And I'd like to share my screen if I can do that now.
You should be able to.
Okay, can you see an image here?
Yeah.
Okay, it should say how I would approach this project.
Yeah.
So each project's unique, but, and you've got a very large site. I love the way it's right at the heart of the city. And I've broken it into 3 parts. Not that I would take them on equally, but I just found them a good way to kind of examine the site. And so the first part, well, there's the gateway, and then there's the street itself, and then there's the plaza area that's in front of the theater. So moving right into the gateway, I've done a number of projects that are about that gateway experience, using my artwork really to draw you into the site. I think the best example, maybe the most famous, is the Grass Blades in Seattle. It's this piece of these 30-foot tall, 110 of these steel blades that move in the wind or to your touch. So they're really to pull you in. Or up in the upper left is Loom, which is in Bellevue, and the High Desert Spiral and Bend. Both of these are iconic art pieces that really are to capture your eye and draw you into a site. So on the left shows images of our site in Lakewood. And I'm not ruling out, but there are issues here, just the scale that would be required to really make an iconic piece. We need a budget to do that. The other issue, not issue, but really it's wanting to be able to touch the arts. One of the magical things about the grass blades in Seattle is what it feels like to come right up to the piece and engage with the art in that way. So a second thing I've been looking at is the street itself, using the street as the art, if you will. It's not unlike I did a large piece. This was a 270 foot by 120 foot. We call it sky painting. This is in Redmond, Washington. And it was really using the street or the parking lot, in this case, as an art piece in and of itself for the community. This is looking at grade. So here, this was using a very special paint on that asphalt. So there was the idea, what if in Lakewood we use the street as a canvas, a way of like bringing your focus in to the very heart of the city, but doing it in a way where it was much more elegant materials than simply paint, like bronze or like stainless. On the right, you can see some of my early artwork, ceramic pieces. I love this idea of creating these patterns that can really give you focus onto a site. So I'm not saying this is what it would look like, but this is just a starting spot to say, how would you engage? How would you create focus? How would you bring a community together? Or how would you bring unity to the community with some mandala or some spiraling vortex-like shape? Now here it probably would mean scribing into the bricks so you could inlay some permanent material of bronze or stainless. And that kind of brings us into the third category that I've been really looking at, which is the plaza. And in digging a little deeper, it looks like the part that the city owns is really that 8-foot strip there next to the street. And so the part outlined in red, I'm not sure if we can build something permanent. That's kind of a question for the committee and the city, or if it's something that would need to be moved in and out of there. I mean, you have quite a lively space, the way when there's a festival going on, the way you inhabit the street as well as the plaza. When there is an event going on, it's a lot of open space, and it's really calling out to bring in some objects, some art to kind of engage you in that space, such as these seductive objects on the right. This is the Highlines Pinnacles that I did in Tempe, Arizona. These are permanent. They're mild steel pieces mounted over these mirrored finished stainless steel pieces at the base. And this is another permanent piece. When we were walking the site, we talked about if there were, if the city had access to some salvaged material. This in Redmond, Washington, is made from 3,000 plates of steel from the old railroad that went through here. And so Redmond was interested in a piece about their history. And so I went way back to 15,000 years and looked at Redmond when it was covered with 3,000 feet of ice. And when those glaciers retreated, they would leave these glacial erratics. Now, we didn't find a glacial erratic on the site. So we said, what if we build our own out of these plates from the railroads that existed there before? And then we sliced this giant boulder, this erratic, open as if it were a giant geode. And we made these cavities with this thick glass in front and these lights inside. So it became this very eye-catching, engaging piece to draw the public in. It also created just this sense of gathering space. And it's amazing to see how people interact with this, just the way the lights change. And so it would be interesting to try to create something in the plaza that is captivating in that same fashion. So I'm really digging in. I'm not trying to propose a design at this time. I'm just trying to illustrate how I go about every project, looking at what could be, sketching, photographing. The plaza at Lakewood, I mean, it's like any plaza in any city all over the world, creating something there to really be the attraction. And so the artwork might be even something you can sit on, something you can inhabit. Could be this giant blade of bronze that you can't resist touching or sitting on. At night, it might be illuminated from below. And again, if this isn't our property, it might be something that we can lift up and move around. There might be a collection of these. So these become the community. They become the gathering place, the place where you want to go to meet friends, something that can be changed for different events. It kind of relates to some other work I do. I love this idea of bringing as art as graceful, swooping shapes. This is this 60-foot long arc that I'm doing for the Oregon Institute of Technology. It's their engineering school. And so we've created this giant swoop of Fibonacci series. And we're making it out of these plates of 1/2-inch thick steel that we roll through an industrial roller. You can see them fabricated on the plates on the right. We're in the process, we haven't rolled them yet. But I've kind of been using this as kind of a bouncing point and talking with my fabricator there, what if we did something like this out of bronze? And so they were giving me these prices just so I had this in my head to be thinking about for Lakewood. So the steel we're using is $2,000. Stainless would be $4,000 for a 4x12 sheet. Bronze, this is expensive stuff, but there's something about that wonderful quality to it. And so if you were to kind of embed in that something that gave the sense of the community. So here, Portraits of Iowa on the right. I worked with 80 photographers and we collected these 340 photographs that then became part of the artwork. You can see on the lower right here, Portraits of Iowa, where we suspended these portraits in the art piece. Or other ways of engaging the community. Western Tapestry in Seattle was 200 different participants that worked over the top of my 1,700 blades of aluminum to kind of give it a sense of the community. Similar in Vail, Colorado, or in Tukwila, engaging participants in the community to contribute to the artwork. And so the artwork really becomes part of the community. And I was kind of taken on your website, your sister city in South Korea, and the art competition you did looking at their work to kind of create this whole community, thinking of, is there a way to bring that community back so it might be something that could be embedded as a part of the artwork, so the artwork really represents the unity of the community as a whole and all of its participants. So I think that's kind of covering that 10-minute portion of my presentation. Would love to open it up. I can keep these on the screen, or I can, maybe we could use these just as a reference point for conversation, for questions.
Thank you so much. That was so well thought out, and I think you actually answered a lot of our questions. But what we're going to do now is we have 12 minutes to go through our questions, and we'll start with Patty.
Hi, I'm Patty. So based on the site tour, what are your initial thoughts on this project, and how do you see incorporating artwork into this space?
Well, I kind of highlighted all of these, or these three categories, and I wouldn't rule any of them out. It really would be a conversation with all of you. But the plaza area is kind of the most intriguing to me, because it's the place where you would gather when the streets open to traffic. It's also a place where everybody gathers. So I really want to talk more about how we could use this space. If it's something that's vertical, if it's something that's horizontal, if it's something that you could sit on, as I'm showing in the examples.
Thank you so much. Susan?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was my dog barking.
That's okay.
Just
He has a question, I think, Susan. The dog does.
okay, I think I'm good now. I think the barking stopped. But what piques or excites you about this project, John?
Well, what really takes me is it's right at the heart of the community. And it's kind of like all roads lead to Rome. Everything seems to focus on this place. And there's kind of a remnant of a past history that I think we can change. I mean, even changing the idea of colonial into unity is a wonderful idea. So it's very exciting to me of how an artwork or a collection of art pieces might do that, might create that focus, bring the community together to build something here that represents Lakewood, something that they can take ownership of, something that they see on a daily basis as they move, as you know, when there's a festival going on or not, when it's just an empty space too.
Thank you so much. Ariani?
Hi. So what are some potential challenges with this project, and how do you think you can overcome them?
Well, one of the challenges, we talked about this during the site tour, the budget is fixed and limited. It includes things like foundations. And so that really was starting to steer me away from the gateway idea. I mean, I think a gateway to make something that's really profound or iconic. I mean, the image I'm showing here, can you still see that?
Mm-hmm.
On the lower left, the Willow Grove, the committee, when they selected me and when it was, their comments were, they had been underwhelmed by public artwork. And so they were really fascinated by the way that my artwork was overwhelming sites. It had this grandness to it. And so that's a bit of a challenge, is how to create something grand with a tight budget. And so one thing that was kind of intriguing to me was this idea of creating something that didn't require foundations, something that could be set on the landscape, something that could possibly be moved around. something that would be made out of a material. I haven't done anything with bronze, but I'm kind of intrigued with that idea of its just seductive nature, how you really want to just touch that, how it feels in your hands. I mean, not that you can't do that with steel. I think the warm color of the highline pinnacles that you see here are very seductive as well. You just want to feel the warmth of that steel. So I'm kind of open to a number of materials, something that's permanent, something that's durable, something that's low maintenance. So your question, going back to your question, was really about what are the challenges. So the challenge is to make the most out of this, shouldn't say limited budget, it's what you have available, but just to really to maximize what you get from that, and something that you're going to feel proud of, something that's going to be permanent, something that really stays with the community.
I love the sounds of that. Thank you so much. Jason?
Well, thank you. Thanks, John. We've got some set questions, but mine deals with the issue of what would you conduct by way of further research to kind of dig into your theme, and what would we be able to be helpful to provide to you?
Well, I think I did touch on a few things. There were questions about the plaza area, what you can and can't do. Those are maybe research questions that you can help me with, and they're
Sure.
pragmatic questions.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, one of the traps of doing a competition like this is we present ideas and then you would select us for an idea. We're the winner, right? And sometimes that kind of closes the door to some of the conversations that can lead to the best artwork in the end, when we're kind of starting with maybe a very rough idea, but it can take off as we work together as a group. And so it can get richer and richer as we go. And so that maybe would be, I would almost hold off and hope to have access to all of you to kind of develop an idea if selected. I'm intrigued with the community, your connection with your sister city in South Korea. That was fascinating to see their work, and it really rang true with half a dozen other projects where I've just loved getting to know the community. The Veil project that I showed you, I'll just give you a glance of it here. It's called Aspening of Veil.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it was a public site for Red Sandstone Elementary School in Vail. And so I had the chance to work with these third graders where we asked them to draw and write stories about how they experience Vail and nature in Vail. And it was just the most rich experience I've ever had, just coming together and seeing what they came up with, which was mind-blowing. And so that would be something where I think all of you could really help. How do I connect? Are there school groups? Are there community groups? Are there people that we could engage with? The other thing we just touched on in the walkthrough was the idea of salvaged material. The Redmond piece that's made out of the plates from the railroads, that was where we had a budget that was $100,000, but when we were able to come across this gold mine of steel plates from the railroad, it helped immensely to do something monumental.
Yeah.
Where we could never have afforded to purchase those pieces new.
What does something like the Veil one run, John, or the grass blades in smaller scale?
The Veil project we finished that in 2019, so it's fairly recent, and it had a very similar budget. It was $90,000. And it was a challenge. I mean, it was like, I won't get into it, but driving the truck, all the work was manufactured in my shop in Redmond, trucked out to the site. Crane operator drove over the pass from Breckenridge, Colorado to fly all of these individual pieces. And it all came together just in one day installation. Scared me to death, but we pulled it off. But that was a tight budget. Grass Blades is a 2002 and $250,000. So the Willow Grove that you can see on the lower left, it's much more extensive than what I'm showing there. There's a whole nother cluster, but that was a $170,000 project. Multiplicity on the right was very satisfying, and it was a budget of $80,000. But the library paid for the foundation work there, so that helped significantly. And that was, it's 6 years ago now. So that's what we're facing right now is steel costs have skyrocketed 80% since last September. So that's really hitting me hard. I don't like in this kind of meeting, kind of getting into these like raw data so much, but I'm just I'm sharing with you some of the realities of what we're facing now.
That's part of the research piece. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's so helpful. Earl?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Earl, and I think you kind of touched upon this in a couple of different areas, but do you have any suggestions or thoughts for the committee about how this art can engage the community, and also if it can draw any tourists?
Yeah, I mean, I have kind of talked a lot about that in the presentation. I'll show this image again, because this is what we think about as a tourist draw. You know, there's a fountain in the plaza, or there's a place to sit, or there's something that just really pulls you together. And so that's where I could see we could create an art piece or pieces that really help create gathering space for the community. And then to take it the next step further, if there were ways of embedding in that artwork contributions from the committee, from the community, where they participated in it, in a way the artwork then becomes the community's artwork. It belongs to them. And I think that sharing process is what really is what's so satisfying about public art, is creating a community and then engaging the community.
Agreed. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Good question.
So have you worked on a similar space as both a thoroughfare and an event space?
Yeah, I'll just quickly, I hope I'm not making you dizzy with this, but I guess if you look at the Willow Grove on the lower left, this is in Jackson, Wyoming, and it's two clusters that are on the main thoroughfare that takes you into the town of Jackson Hole. So it was working with the Wyoming Department of Transportation, with the city of Jackson, to kind of create this gateway experience to draw you in to the town. The high desert spiral that you see above that, this is in Bend, Oregon. It's in a roundabout. And so it was really a piece that was all about the thoroughfare, how you navigate through the city, how to use this as a turning point. They even use it as for bicycle races or for foot races. It's a pylon that they use in navigating through, as you call it, a thoroughfare through the city. So it's kind of addressing the needs of the street, the right-of-way requirements, but also doing it in an artful fashion. I think multiplicity also, you can see it on the right. There are other projects, but all of these are kind of about the experience of moving on the streets and then how you're kind of engaged by the artwork. So the artwork functions both for an eye-catching thing as you're traveling by, but also hopefully something you can touch and engage with up close. I mean, the Grass Blades is very much this thoroughfare, and I think its best power is how you can reach up and get those things moving and how you can weave in and out of the blades themselves. That's become one of the most satisfying experiences of how Seattle has kind of taken the art piece on as one of the most important pieces in the city.
Thank you so much. And the last question is from Lonnie. Is Lonnie still with us, Nikki?
It looks like she dropped off.
Okay. Jason, do you want to ask the question?
I don't remember exactly Lonnie's question, but I love the glass blade or grass blade concept, maybe as a gateway tool. I don't recall Lonnie's question there, but
yeah, it's following the site visit. Did any new questions come to mind regarding the site or the
there we go. Yeah, that's the question, John. But I like the grass blades. Yeah.
And if you feel like you've answered that, fine. That's fine.
Well, I mean, it's another idea that's really fascinating to me that does tie in with Lakewood. It's the experience of moving by, both in a car and on foot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we mentioned that with the Grass Blades. It's that experience of moving past them, of weaving in and out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Or with the aspening of Vail, the Vail project. I mean, they have these beautiful aspen groves there. And so I was capturing that quality, but the idea of these quaking aspens and the experience of moving underneath this archway, if you will, that they span over the top of you. And so I think that's something I would really be interested in exploring further. Even the idea of movement as something as how it's interactive art. I think in the artwork that's showing on the page up now, Grass Blades, Multiplicity, Aspening of Vail, High Desert Spiral, all of these things move in the wind as well as to your touch. And so they're kind of captivating the audience. They're drawing you in, and they're giving you a sense of delight in experiencing the site. So all those are opportunities that you have in Lakewood that the artwork can help you highlight, if you will.
You know, one historic thing is the area was known prior to being known as Lakewood. It was the area, the prairie area, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. You know,
Prairie because it was an open
Flat.
Space that had been cleared.
Not really cleared. I think it was just kind of a flat prairie area with a lot of those Gary oaks that kind of popped up over the course of time.
Those oaks are beautiful, yeah.
Well, that was so helpful to hear you explain your artwork in person, piece by piece, what went into it, and how it could translate to the Colonial Plaza. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions for us after this, you can just email me, and because our time is up here.
Yeah.
But thank you.
We may have some follow-up. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm going to ask all the committee members to stay on, please.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll exit out now. Let me
Thanks,
stop
John.
sharing.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Get it.
Thank you, John.
Well, now we know to give longer time.
Yeah.
That went by so fast.
I think it might be helpful to think about having questions being a little bit more organic from us, because those are great seeds to get the conversation started. But the presenters have answered so many of the questions that are on our rote sheets that I think it would be more helpful to our decision making if we kind of ask organically from the presentation. I don't think it's going to make it unfair. I think it's our process. So I think for me, it would be more helpful to just ask questions as I hear the presentations.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, I can see that because they've been given the questions, so they're speaking to them in their presentation. So we can go ahead and do that for the others.
Yeah.
If so, just let's just talk briefly about how you felt about the two, and any thoughts, questions, anything new that came up for you with John.
My thought as to both I like them both. They're both very, very impressive. I think two things came to mind for me. The site is so big and vast, and you got the thoroughfare piece and you've got the complications of the plaza piece. I'm going back to the concept of an iconic gateway piece or pieces at the front to draw people into the area for the activities that will unfold there. I think a small little blip somewhere in the plaza isn't going to be as sexy. That's just me.
Yeah, it sounded to me like he was saying, he'd like to do that, but the budget's prohibitive for him to do that, to do something really grand. But I love that everything he did was so classy and so high quality and beautiful and grand, and he focuses on that. That was my big takeaway with him. Whatever he does, it's going to be so nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Elegant.
I really liked the fact how he was able to have the thought to repurpose something, especially for the Redmond project, and incorporate it into that. I'm not sure if we would be able to take an opportunity to do the same thing, but I really appreciated that he had that kind of vision to pull that in.
Mm-hmm. I'm just not aware of any of that kind of stuff that we might have. Do you know, Sally, anything?
Well, we have light poles that are steel that are coming down.
Where?
I don't know how easy that is to then take those poles and repurpose them. But I have to say, he's not the first artist at the Colonial Plaza. They were, trying to think of everything they could to save money, using the existing poles that are there, which we found out are at capacity for weight bearing, so they cannot be used. But Mary had inquired about that, Mary Koss, which I thought was really a creative approach.
And I also have to appreciate the fact that he did take time to research the city of Lakewood a little bit, especially about our sister city and the recent contests we had, and kind of trying to pull that community engagement in as well. I had to commend him for that.
Yes.
There can be some interesting ways, I'm thinking out loud, and Susan would know this better than I, but some of those really cool drawings from the kids from the Gimhe project, I've seen people do those things on enamel, on steel or something, where you do a photograph, and that can be embedded maybe in some of those great glasses or grass reeds or whatever the hell you call those things. But that can be an interesting way where those are at site level, and yet the grass things are tall enough to engage interest.
Good thought.
Yeah, I agree. So I wanted to say it's 6:11, and this busy week I thought it'd be best to do them back to back so everything's really fresh in mind. And in the end, on Thursday, we will just have a dialogue about narrowing it down to the top 2 or 3, unless we just have one standout and we know we want to work with that one person. But because of that, I really want you to take careful note so that when we have that dialogue, and I think they're all going to be very wonderful artists, how exactly we want to pare that down. So just keep careful notes. It won't be, we won't be using a rubric. We're just going to, again, have a dialogue like we've been having. Unless, of course, we feel like we need more time with each artist. But let's just start by getting through each of these.
Yeah. And we may whittle it down, Sally, to 2 or 3 that we might want to have some more time with.
Right.
And then open a discussion a little bit more about some budget stuff that Patty and I will take up with council if we need to.
Absolutely.
That sounds really good.
I was impressed with both of them. I thought they were great. I love the ideas of the grand scale. You know, I think that the height thing is really, really important. I
Yes.
mean, so that's my biggest thing is I mean, and you had, when they were giving the spiel, when you gave them the spiel, you told them how high they could go up to, what was it like? It was something huge.
Yeah. Way
Mhm.
easier than we need. If we can go up to 12 or 14 feet, we'd be blessed. But
Right.
this-
Exactly.
yeah.
So I mean, I thought they both gave really great presentations. So I'm impressed with the first two choices already. It makes me feel very confident that we're going to get somebody good, really, really good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that feedback. What did you think, Ariane? Are you there, Ariane? I'd love to get the student perspective.
She's there.
Okay.
She's responding to me. She's working with her. Say hi to the group. Probably new at Zoom a little bit here. Susan, how about you from your perspective as the resident artiste?
Oh, well, they're both such wonderful artists. I am confident that as we go through this process, I mean, we have other amazing people to come here in the next 2-3 days. So how fortunate are we to work with such amazing artists? I think we've been very, very fortunate in our selection process so far. So any one of these guys can do an amazing job. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
What I did here is for both of them, and I imagine others, it'll be the same, really want to work with the community.
Oh, yeah.
And that is time consuming, and it makes the project richer, but it is time consuming.
It is, and it does make it richer and deeper, as you suggested. The whole connection to the sister city is very interesting.
I think so too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we're eager to get this piece done, and these pieces take a long time. If we're rush, it's a year. But we'll have to really think about, do we want to give the artist that time to engage the community? And what will that look like time-wise?
Well, it has great PR benefits.
That's a great point.
It would be a great way to kick off the program.
Yeah, I love that.
Hey.
Hi, if I click on all panelists, then do you guys get the messages, or do I need to click on all panelists and attendees?
I can see it now.
Okay.
All panelists, yeah, it's great. And actually we can hear your voice too, which is even better.
Sorry, I had to get away from, my siblings were being really loud. I apologize. I really did like John's presentation. I feel like he really cared about his artwork, and yeah, I don't, are we supposed to be discussing like who we like better, or are we supposed to be just talking about?
Yeah, just thoughts on the two that you observed.
Okay, well, I really like John's presentation. I just feel like he really cared about his artwork.
What do you think about something larger in scale, more of a gateway thing, or something smaller, more in the center, like some of the seating bench curved piece ideas he had?
I really like some of the smaller pieces. I think that's just me personally, though. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Did you hear the screaming?
Yeah, as long as it's not you creating the screams, we're good.
Oh, okay, yeah. Were you guys liking more of his smaller pieces of art too, or did you like the gateway?
Kind of depends on the piece, really. You know, it really kind of depends on what it is. I don't have any preconceived notion, but the space is just so big. that unless it sticks out some way, I think it gets lost in the volume of the space.
What specific areas like are these like potential like pieces of art supposed to be located at?
He identified 3, and I think he was right on. There's either the gateway area,
Mhm.
there's the plaza area, if you will, in front of the theater, and then there was the streetscape, which I don't think would work. I wouldn't want to see us spend any money on painting the bricks we just put in.
Wait, the street what? I'm sorry.
The street area, the brick street area in front of the theater, which is the thoroughfare where cars drive. I don't think that's a very good.
Okay, yeah. I really like the plaza idea. I think that's where a lot of like city events happen at, or if like from what I've known is that a lot of events they like to gather there in the plaza area. So I think that'd be the best in my opinion.
An interesting thought though, Sally, on what you do with your configuration of your events. If you got some big piece in the smack dab middle of where you set up a band stage, or you're a little limited there.
Of course, that's what I was thinking. And so the idea of having it movable was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But also, in not everyone was at the orientation, but all the planter boxes, they can do art in those as well. And
Right.
those are, often situated with a bench right below them or next to them. So, and that's a really inexpensive way to put the art in because it's soft. You don't have to go into the brick. You can go into the soil and create your footing. So that came out as really apropos places to put the art as well.
Mm-hmm.
It brings it closer to the plaza, like you were saying, Ariane, without using the event space.
Right.
I think after seeing his work, I'm kind of a little bit more inclined to having, maybe more of the gateway idea with a larger, more dynamic sculpture that'll become a draw, towards people to just to get them to engage more with the colonial center rather than just driving by it. If we do lower level things that are kind of just filling up the space, we might lose that attention from the community.
And then it's tricky because at the gateway area, it's not exactly safe for pedestrians to get up and close to the artwork. But Daryl, did you have any thoughts?
Thanks, Sally. I thought they were both very strong. Mary seemed to have more experience working with bronze and cast resin and those type of materials, but she also touched on using lighting as part of the effect. I'm going to kind of swing this question back to Jason and Patty here. What impacts at all do you think the artists are going to have if they try to go a little bit more innovative than what we've seen so far? And what do you think are going to be some of the constraints besides the budget numbers that provides? Do you guys see any? We went through a round of candidates earlier. Is there anything that in your opinions are off the table, or do you think you guys might be receptive to some adaptable changes or shifts in interest from the artist?
Yes.
Well, that was an easy answer.
Yeah.
Thanks, Patty.
No, I think there's a real desire to do it right.
Right.
How do you define that?
Yeah.
I think that Jason and I are huge advocates on this. And I think whatever we would propose forward to council as far as the actual piece, we wouldn't propose it. And Jason, correct me if I'm wrong on this, if we weren't 110% behind it. And we would make sure that we had the buy-in on that.
Great. Those were my thoughts. Yeah. Thank you.
So as I'm thinking about this, I would like you to kind of keep a score. We have 6 artists. Your top 6, try to do to number those as you could start now, even between these 2, and then
Sure.
if you number them. I won't be collecting that, but we'll reference that Thursday. And then we'll make the questions more organic based on their presentation. probably have less questions, I would think, than we currently have now, just because they're answering them during their presentation. So just be aware that you can be more organic, but again, and we did a great job of it today, staying on point, not having side conversations that go off because of the limited time. So thank you so much. This is really exciting. And same time, same place tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Sally.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Everybody.
Hard time
Bye, everyone.
dialing in to
Bye,
Zoom.
everyone.
What was that, Jason?
Anybody else have a hard time dialing into Zoom? I had to go to my own Zoom account and put the password and code in.
So
Oh,
did
interesting.
I
Okay,
had
I'll let Nikki know. Or Nikki, did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I'll try resending it out. It's going to be the same exact login information.
Yeah, I was able to
tomorrow.
get in through my own account, but once I clicked on the link and I put in either my city email and the password, it wouldn't work. I put in my work email and the passcode, it wouldn't work. So then
It was the same for me too. I had to log in into my personal Zoom.
yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay, maybe I'll ask IT and see if they know.